So this video is going to be a little bit different. Oh my gosh, this dog. Hey. I wanted to do an update video for my other YouTube video that I did last week, which was me being hospitalized while I was having one of my sickle cell crisis. I pretty much started recording after I was already in the hospital for 48 hours. And because like the first 48 was too painful. I couldn't focus on anything except trying to get control of the pain my whole body was feeling. So this particular crisis that I ended up vlogging, I was having a lot of severe chest pain. Like my whole chest was shot in pain, and then my hips. Thank you to the staff for letting me do it. Even while I was recording it, I wasn't even like 100% positive that I was actually gonna show the footage, but I wanted to make that decision after the like. I wanted to have the option. I can't make the decision, okay, yeah, I feel okay with vlogging a medical crisis I'm having, and then, but if I didn't shoot it, I wouldn't have the choice to kind of go back later. So I'd rather shoot it, sit on it, and I eventually got to a point where I was okay, because there's just a couple things with that video that I wanted to explain. All right, so I wanted to just kind of give a Cliff Note version of some questions that I feel like people had about sickle cell. Sickle cell anemia, which is what I have, is focused on my hemoglobin count, which is my red blood cells. Instead of having perfectly healthy circle, like, you know, your red blood cells, they're like these circle shapes, kind of with like a hole in their round, but my like sickle cells are more like a crescent moon shape, and on top of them being like this crescent moon shape, they're sticky. So whenever they're going through my veins, they start like clogging together over time, kind of similar, like kind of feeling more like a blood clot, or looking like a blood clot, but there's just all the cells packing together and sticking together, just kind of linking up, getting and stopping, and when they clog together, it just stops the rest of the blood from flowing through that vein, and it'll keep happening over a period of time throughout your whole, like my whole body. And then if it happens enough, it'll create a lot of pain in that area that's stopping blood flow from going anywhere. And then on top of that, since the anemia part, which is my body just doesn't produce a lot of like red blood cells. I just don't have a lot of hemoglobin in my body. For example, like in a typical healthy, physically fit human, they might have a hemoglobin count of 13.0 to 15.0. And that's a pretty healthy dose of red blood cells that are going through your body. In my case, my body always hovers around between, like, I'll say 8.5 to 7. A hemoglobin count of 7.0, like no matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your background is, like if you go below 7.0 hemoglobin count, any physician is gonna automatically give you a blood transfusion, because they have to lift your number back way up to kind of equal like how much is supposed to be in your body. Whenever my blood drops a little bit, it sends me into like a full medical crisis. So that's why it starts happening. As of lately, like in my 30s, it started happening a lot more frequently when these crises would pop up. It's just a lot of maintenance, pretty much. Hold on, I gotta refer to my notes because there's a bunch of questions and I wanted to like explain everything. I didn't vlog everything. Everything that you saw in the video wasn't what happened, because one, I didn't think I was gonna be in the hospital for as long as I was. Honestly, the beginning of the day, I already felt some symptoms popping up a little bit. So I went to my doctor's office that day and got some IV fluids to kind of help push a lot of the symptoms that I was feeling, and you can flood your whole system with a lot more fluids. Like I can drink water or Gatorade, but that still has to absorb through my stomach until it reaches my veins where the clog is actually happening. It just takes a lot longer. And what I didn't see was they would give me a blood transfusion to kind of, because my hemoglobin count I think was 7.4 when I was hospitalized, or 7.2. So they gave me a unit of blood, and then it picked it up to like 8.0. For some reason, when I get blood transfusions, like my body will accept a certain amount of it, and then it'll reject a certain amount of it. So please donate blood if you can, because it helps people like me a lot. Like I need a lot of blood because I just can't make it. I take as much folic acid as I can to folic acid helps make more hemoglobin, and it just I produce a slow amount or a low amount of blood. So I feel like a vampire sometimes, but it's what it is. And I also did a lot of other tests, like they did a ultrasound to kind of look at my veins to make sure like my veins weren't collapsed. Oh, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about too, is why I have a chest port. I just have horrible veins. Like there's no, usually if I have a crisis, especially if I'm having a really bad pain crisis, it means like I have a low amount of blood in my body. So you could imagine going to the ER and then trying to do a IV on somebody that has no blood and they can't even find any veins. It makes the process extremely difficult. Time after time I'd be in the ER and they would have to stick me, like this is no exaggeration, 10 times. A port, like this little catheter where they can stick an IV every time. It's like a perfect fit every time, and it's a tube that's connected into one of the biggest arteries that goes right to my heart. So whenever they give me my treatment, it's just, it'll always give blood return. Oh, in the video you saw that some of my stats, my oxygen was really low, and the reason for my oxygen being really low is because, as you can expect, I don't have enough blood. You carry a lot of oxygen with your red blood cells, so if you don't have enough of that, then you can't carry that much oxygen. A blood transfusion helps remedy that too. Whenever they add more blood, so then I can carry more oxygen to other parts of my body, and that's pretty much one of the big main reasons why I get a blood transfusion. I look at my body more like a car that's to fill up on gas. Like after like some time, I'm just gonna run out of gas, and I just need to go get some medical treatment to kind of fill my tank back up so I can kind of start operating again. I guess some other questions I was getting are, what are some complications that can happen with this condition? For instance, both of my hips are completely replaced. It's things that you don't really think about. This dog is like crazy.
What did you just do?
Hip replaced. So both of my hips are completely replaced because around when I was 25, my hips, we discovered that the ball joints in my hips started crumbling because they weren't getting enough blood flow to them. Last year, I started having leg ulcers, like some severe leg ulcers where the muscle tissue around my ankle was just like deteriorating, just like dying off, and the reason for it was because my leg was not receiving any blood flow for an extended period of time. So after like this, that doesn't just happen like because you didn't get any blood for a day or two. That was over time. That was like months of buildup. It started as like a small little pea-sized like wound on my ankle, and then it swelled up to the size of a of like a graham cracker like on my ankle. And it was like, oh, it pretty much took a year to recover from that. They almost amputated my leg. Thank goodness we didn't, because I was willing to try whatever it took just to kind of save it. I had to do blood exchanges, which are different from a blood transfusion. I was doing blood exchanges, which was blood transfusion is they'll give you a unit of blood, add it into your IV, and they just kind of add it into your system. I started doing blood exchanges where since I have sickle cell, they would take some of my blood out of my body because it's bad blood, it's the bad sickle cell blood, and they'll replace it with somebody else's good blood. So we would have 2 IVs, one taking out my blood first, and then putting in new blood, and it was like a whole kind of, you have to balance it out so I'm not just completely depleted with no blood. It was a whole process, and I was doing that every 2 weeks, because when my leg was at its worst, it was just, I couldn't heal. Any kind of wound I would get, it was just not healing at that point. In the video, you saw me at the end, and this person that's causing trouble right here, Juno. Here, Juno. This is Juno that you saw. Juno, look at the camera. Juno, look at the camera. There. You see it? You see you? No? That was Juno. Well, I got Juno a month ago. Juno was not, since I was in the hospital for 6 days, Juno was not just sitting in my apartment by herself. So me and my friend Min, we live in the same building, and Min has access into my apartment. So he was, and he has his dog, so every time he would take his dog out, he was watching Juno during that time. So just so people know that I didn't, she wasn't abandoned here with nobody taking care of her. She was doing pretty well, and I was getting updates on her every day. I started a new treatment that got approved this year, Adakveo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but pretty much, to my knowledge, I am the only patient here in Austin, Texas that is approved to try this new medication. So the theory is, after some time, it makes your hemoglobin have a really difficult time sticking to the walls of your veins, so it keeps your blood flowing. Your blood can't stick together and clog together. You should have less pain in the long run. And then if you have less pain, you have less ER, hospital admissions, less ER visits. I started this treatment back in June. It's November right now. And I do this treatment once a month, and they'll let it start doing its magic and kind of lubing the inside of my body up. So after some time, it should just kind of help with keeping my blood moving. Here's my reaction or my feedback from what I've experienced with this medication so far. So what I've noticed is I've been having less everyday pain with this medication, and I'll have my oral medications that help me with that pain. But while I've been on this treatment, I feel like I've experienced less of that. So all the little aches and pains that I would go through with maybe my knee or my ankle or whatever part of your body is hurting because it's not getting enough blood flow, that treatment has been helping with the small versions of it. But whenever I have a big explosion of just a lot of blood flow, not having a big pain, medical crisis, it doesn't really help in that regard. It's kind of, I think, whenever your body gets to that point, it's just too much for that to handle. So but I still appreciate what this medication has done. I really take the philosophy of not letting this, because this condition can really take over your whole life and being like, and I really try to focus or put extra energy in trying, like, doing everything that I want to do. I don't want to like limit myself. So if I already had to put a trip planned, I still want to keep that trip. I don't want to change everything because out of fear of, hey, I don't want to go because I might get sick over in Vegas, or I might get sick if I do this. Like I like to try to keep my whole schedule, my whole life moving as much as normal as possible. Like, cause if I don't know, I don't know. I have a really roller coaster kind of relationship with dealing with it and just a different, a more live your best life kind of point of view when it comes to chronic illness. That I guess is the most simplest way I can kind of put it.